What if I told you you have the power to change your life and beat your addiction in just 30 days? No expensive therapies, fancy protocols, or endless willpower required. Just your commitment to change, trust in the Lord, and a few strategic steps rooted in holistic psychology that anyone can do. Just a couple months ago, I'd had it with the way I was living my life. I could tell I was on the brink of big change, and I deeply desired it. But I felt stuck in survival mode. Prayer was something that I hopefully remembered to do before falling asleep each night. I was scrambling to get the basics done every day. I was struggling to keep up with meals and laundry, and I never had a plan for the day ahead. I was burnt out, overwhelmed, and exhausted. And I showed it by snapping at my kids and picking fights with my husband. I projected my feelings of failure and assumed that that must be how he perceived me. I blamed my kids for never letting me get anything done. I would fall into bed, defeated after another long day, and just scroll my phone for hours sometimes until 1 or 2 in the morning. It was my way to numb the pain of failure and feeling like life was just passing me by. And when I woke up, if the kids weren't up yet, I'd check my phone first thing. I'd get distracted by reels and shorts, emails, and the For You news page that's on the Discover part of the phone. And whatever plans I might have made for the morning usually didn't happen because I ran out of time before needing to care for the children. And if it was a good nap day, and I actually had a couple hours to myself in the afternoon, I was too frazzled to do anything productive. And truly restorative activities even felt like too much effort. Often all I could do was sleep for hours or scroll my phone or watch TV. Does any of that sound familiar to you? I want you to know you're not alone. There is hope, and your life can change drastically in a very short time if you choose to let it. I decided about 2 months ago that I had enough of this lifestyle. I was sick of living this way, and I knew I was called to more, to peace and joy in my vocation. I realized I was making excuses for myself and that I needed to take back control of my life. But I also knew that I needed help. I learned that sheer willpower and total reliance on myself was a recipe for failure. So keep watching to learn how I finally and quickly changed by leveraging the power of prayer, mindset, accountability, and holistic lifestyle changes. Hey, I'm Rachel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I'm a Catholic mom, a nurse, and a health coach who helps homemakers like me realize their full potential without the stress and the burnout. If that sounds like content that you need more of, please like, subscribe, and share, and let's get into the video. So before we get into how I actually made the changes, I want to talk to you a little bit about the science of why it works. It has to do with dopamine. Now, dopamine is very strongly linked to your motivation to get things done. If you do a pleasurable activity, dopamine is then released in anticipation of that activity, which further increases your motivation to do the same thing next time. I have an article that I found on PubMed. It's a big literature review of dopamine detox and whether it's a good or a bad thing, which it sounds like it is mostly a good thing as long as you don't take it to the extreme. So just a couple definitions that I want to read for you from this lit review. Dopamine detox is a concept that aims at reducing dependence on instant satisfaction, gratification, and overstimulation to attain mental clarity, lessen anxiety, and be able to enjoy everyday events again. It further says that individuals who engage in dopamine fasting-like ideologies may experience reduced impulsive behaviors, increased focus on tasks, and reduced overwhelm. I have certainly found that to be true. Anyway, I realized that my phone was putting my brain into dopamine overload. I'd grown accustomed to constant stimulation and instant gratification, and my dopamine tolerance was really, really high. My motivation to do things that require more discipline and effort and delayed gratification was at an all-time low, because scrolling on the phone or watching Downton Abbey was really easy and really rewarding to my brain. When I failed to reach my goals, I would then turn to the phone for distraction and comfort. So it was a vicious cycle. The idea with dopamine detox is to eliminate sources of excess dopamine and allow your brain and body to reset. And then you slowly reintroduce the activities in a limited and healthy way. You mostly replace the super high dopamine activities with holistic activities that support slow and simple living and gradual, sustainable dopamine release. So that leads me into how I actually made the changes. And it started with digital essentialism. What is that? I define digital essentialism as using technology for its good things, because it does have a lot of great qualities, but being very mindful and intentional with its use and keeping it as minimal as you can. So I decided to embrace digital essentialism. What I ended up doing was, at a family gathering when my family was watching my kids, I sat down for 2 or 3 hours and I just cleaned out my phone, deleted all the apps I wasn't using, turned off almost all notifications except those calls and messages from people that I really want to be able to hear from. I disabled the For You news page on my phone. The apps that I had left, I organized into folders and got them all off my home screen. So if I want to go for a certain app, I still have to go and search for it in a folder instead of it being right there. Another thing I did was installing App Block. I have talked about App Block in previous videos and I love it. They don't sponsor me, but it has really made a big difference. You pay $30 for a whole year, and it has this wonderful thing called strict mode, which I recently discovered I still need. Anyway, I'd had strict mode enabled for the first 2 or 3 weeks following putting App Block on my phone. And it's great because it doesn't allow for any excuses or allowances. Within App Block, I had placed time limits on social media and other distracting apps. And I put time blocks to protect the last half hour of my night and the first half hour of my morning. And usually with these apps, you can go in and disable it yourself. But AppBlock allows you, with the premium version, to have an accountability person. You put in their email. And if you enable strict mode, then if you want to disable it and change any of the blocking settings you've made or uninstall the app, an email request is sent to your accountability person. And they have to approve it before you can do anything. So that has really helped, because when I have been really tempted to bypass it, honestly, most of the time, it's just not worth it for me to send an email to Ben and be like, please. And the few times that I really, truly, for some reason, have needed to disable it, like if I'm taking a late shower and I want to listen to a YouTube video, then he's cool with that. And actually, after one of those instances, I never did re-enable the strict mode. And I did okay for about a month. Then just last night, I was laughing to myself after it happened, like, here we go. I need my strict mode back. I thought that I had YouTube Shorts set on like a 10-minute time limit. So I let myself scroll after I put the kids to bed. And I thought, okay, in 10 minutes, the app will kick me off. Well, I had not put that setting in, so the app did not kick me off. And I ended up scrolling for, it told me 48 minutes. So I wasted 48 minutes of my night. And that felt awful. I could have been listening to an audiobook. I could have been stretching. I could have gone to bed early. Could have done the dishes, but let's be honest, I was avoiding dishes. Anyway, I went right into App Block, which thankfully my nighttime block was still active. So it kicked me off of YouTube at 9 p.m. And I said, thank God. Thank you. That was still there. And right away, I made a setting for myself to make sure that shorts on YouTube and reels on Instagram would only allow me to have like 15 minutes combined of both of those a day. And I re-enabled my strict mode because I'm not doing that again. I'm not wasting another 48 minutes again. Anyhow, my point in telling you that story is to let you know that I'm doing a lot better. And I still think I've made great progress, but the point is progress over perfection. And when you do slip up, taking steps to ensure it doesn't happen again. Also, to help you guys out, I do have a digital essentialist worksheet that I will link down in the description for you. The worksheet has the details of all the things I did to clean up my phone. And it also has a 2-week media fast on there, which I did participate in a while back. And it was really, really great to be able to disconnect from the worries of the wider world for a little while. So again, I'll link that down below for you. Okay, so the next change I made was making my prayer consistent and incorporating mindset shifts. I do have a few scripture verses that I love for this concept of overcoming addiction in general. The scripture verses that inspire me speak to confidence in our strength through Christ. Of course, there is always Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I'm pretty sure the Catholic Bible version of the verse is, I have the strength for all things through him who empowers me, which is also really good. And some other ones I love, I'll flip to them and read them out loud for you here. There's John 15:2, when Jesus is talking about the vine and the branches. And he says, he takes away every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every one that does, he prunes, so that it bears more fruit. So I like to think of God pruning us too, pruning away the branches that don't bear fruit. And the ones that do bear fruit, he prunes even more so that we are even more fruitful as long as we remain in him. I love this. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. For God did not give us a spirit of cowardice, but rather of power and love and self-control. So again, I think that that's a really empowering one. It literally says God gives us a spirit of power and spirit of self-control. So I try to remember that. And also along those lines, here's 1 Corinthians 10:13. No trial has come to you, but what is human. God is faithful and will not let you be tried beyond your strength. But with the trial, he will also provide a way out so that you may be able to bear it. A wonderful reminder there that God never gives us more than we can bear. Our crosses are never too heavy. And as long as we are remaining in him and trying to abide in his word, we can make it through all trials and temptations. So some more prayer changes that I made and mindset shifts that I made. I just started asking God during prayer time for discipline and strength, because he tells us that ask and we shall receive. So I ask God, give me more discipline as a wife and mother and homemaker. Help me beat this phone addiction. Give me the strength to do it. I know you can and you will. And I trusted that he'd get me through the spiritual desolation that I was currently experiencing. And at this time, I was also just learning about the concept of spiritual consolation and spiritual desolation, spiritual discernment. It's a wonderful concept by St. Ignatius, and you can learn more about it in this video that I made. I also started praying to be more like Mother Mary, to love my vocation, and to embrace a slow and simple and humble life. I still call on her daily when I need this reminder and support, because learning to love living a life of humility and simpleness has been really tough for me. Being addicted to the phone, I loved overstimulation, excitement, always being busy and go, go, go. So staying at home with the kids has been a really hard adjustment. But every day it gets a little easier, and prayer helps that so much. Another thing I did is I started ruthlessly eliminating content that doesn't support who I want to be. Now the things that I watch and listen to are strictly empowering, motivational, and pretty much always Christian focused. I stopped watching all the media that caused me to worry or to hate the life I was living. So for instance, YouTube would recommend, murder documentaries or news about children being abducted or all of the terrible things happening in the world. And while I think it's important to be informed, I think especially for homemakers in the season that we're in, it's more important to guard our hearts and protect our minds. So I started just Xing off and saying, don't recommend to all of those videos that would give me such deep-rooted anxiety and worry and keep me watching more and more and more of them. now I barely see them and I don't indulge when they come across my page. And I am so much happier and so much more at peace. Another thing that I do now, listening to affirmations. I don't use the I am kind. I am statements I've found are most effective when you're the one creating them and writing them and reading them back out loud in your own voice. But if you're listening to a pre-made track with somebody else's voice, you are statements are a lot more effective because your subconscious perceives them as being more accurate. So an example, you are healthy, you are happy, you are God's beloved child. So I do have a track on an app called Insight Timer that I like, and I'll link it for you guys, but I do want to give an important disclaimer. Insight Timer is a really like woo-woo mystical app. So I had downloaded it back in a completely different point in my spiritual journey, and now I really rarely use it except for listening to body scan meditations where you're just being aware of the different parts of your body as a mindfulness tool. Okay. And I also use it for the affirmations track. So if you do go forward with that app, just be careful about the content that you use on there and stay away from anything new agey that comes across. So with all of these prayer and mindset shifts, the key is consistency. You can't just pray for strength and empowerment one time and expect everything to permanently change. You need to keep asking every day, keep praying for it every day, and filling your mind and your heart with the things that you want to be true about yourself. And eventually it will bear fruit for you. Okay, so lastly, let's get into the holistic lifestyle changes that I made. Because if you're not going to be scrolling on your phone all the time, you got to be doing something else, right? My lifestyle changes started with limiting the phone use, which I touched on when we spoke about digital essentialism. I limit the phone use for the first half hour of my morning and the last half hour of my evening. So I do allow certain apps like calls can get through, some text messages, and I allow my Hallow app because I will use the prayer tracks at nighttime and in the morning. But other tempting apps are blocked until 6 a.m. and then after 9 p.m. And they still have daily usage limits within them. Like my social media, I cap at 30 minutes a day. And Shorts and Reels is now capped at 15 minutes a day. So again, with the prayer time, I do make time for prayer every morning. A half hour is ideal. Whether I can actually make a half hour happen, hit or miss, but it's always at least something. And I use that morning prayer time for maybe a little journaling or talking to God about my worries and fears for the day or what I'm excited for with the day ahead, what I need help with. And if I have time, I'll listen to some contemplative or meditative prayer from Father Timothy Gallagher on the Hallow app, like in the style of St. Ignatius. And at nighttime, I have been listening to a daily examine. And it's really helpful to be able to notice God's presence throughout your day. Again, that's another Ignatian spirituality concept. Noticing where God has been present and just sharing your day and your heart with Him at the end of each night. Another change I made is I make time for intentional silence every day. I was a person who I always had to have some sort of music or podcast or YouTube video, or some sort of noise always playing in the background. I have found recently that just intentionally choosing to listen to nothing and just be fully present in the task that I'm engaging in is really, really good for giving your mind a break. So it's not always what I want to do, but I always feel better afterwards. If I take 10 minutes while I'm doing dishes and not listen to the podcast or music, or while I'm driving, just going there silently and just chit-chatting with my kids in the car. Or if I'm doing a chore like dishes or laundry, I may say a rosary. And sometimes I will still listen to the rosary on the Hallow app to keep me focused on it. But the point is that I'm not taking in media and content. I'm in the present moment, fully immersed in the activity I'm doing. Also, I mentioned this earlier, but I've replaced almost all of the content that I do take in with things that are motivational, empowering, Christian, audiobooks too. I have been really trying to limit podcasts and YouTube videos, even the good ones, and taking the time to listen to audiobooks instead. I've found that a lot more effort goes into audiobooks rather than a podcast or a video. It's just the nature of the thing. And you can learn a lot more in a lot more depth by listening to an audiobook. So what I'm listening to right now is Simplicity Parenting, and I am loving it. I'm loving all the things I'm learning, so much so that I actually did buy a hard copy of the book to reference later. But I feel so proud that just by listening to it, I've gotten through almost all of the book already. And I don't think I've actually finished a book in years. So that feels like a really big accomplishment. And when I do listen to podcasts and YouTube videos, I'm pretty much always very intentional about it now. Anything that I listen to almost always has a purpose, and it supports my vision of who I'm becoming and who I want to be. Finally, the last holistic lifestyle change I've made, it has been trending for a while, and I'm always behind on trends, so it's fresh for me, but you've probably heard of it. It's a dopamine menu. It's really good for people with ADHD. I think that the YouTuber Jessica McCabe originated the concept, and it's just blown up since then. The idea with a dopamine menu is it provides you all sorts of activities that you've pre-thought out and decided on for when you need a boost of dopamine so that you can turn to these things rather than turning to phone or TV right away. The menu's got starters, entrees, sides, desserts, and specials. So a starter is supposed to be quick and easy, something that maybe takes 5 or 10 minutes. And the idea is that you can do it any time of the day that you need a small boost. My starters: dancing and singing to upbeat music or my favorite tracks, making a fancy drink. Got my iced coffee here that gives me a dopamine boost every day. Or making a fancy but healthy snack. Taking 5 to 10 minutes to sit down and do some prayer or meditation or breath work. Getting myself dressed up cute or doing my makeup. Right now, I pretty much only do makeup for filming videos, but once in a while, it's just fun to put on a fun dress and actually do my eyes and feel extra pretty. Another thing I can do is just stepping outside, taking a deep breath and basking in the sunshine for 5 minutes. If I have 10 minutes, I may go out and pick some flowers and put them in a vase. This time of year, we have lovely purple, pink, white, blue, just all sorts of beautiful colors of flowers. And it is so nice to put that little pop of freshness in your home. A couple other starters I have: intentionally playing or cuddling with my kids instead of always going around the house or ignoring them and saying, no, I can't right now, I'm working. Indulging them for a few minutes. Yes, I will play with you. Show me what you're doing and building, or let me cuddle you and just hold you on the rocking chair for 10 minutes and remind you that you're my baby. And also reading a good book. Taking 5 or 10 minutes to read a page or two of fiction or nonfiction just because I want to, and not feeling like it's something I have to be reading or should be reading. So then are the entrees. Entrees are activities that may require planning and usually require a bit more time, but the dopamine boost is bigger and sustained for longer. So my entrees for dopamine boosts: having an at-home date night with my husband, taking time to redecorate or rearrange the house, taking time to declutter, having a play date with a friend, taking the kids to the library or to the playground, going on a nature walk, either by myself or with the kiddos, taking the time to cook a fun recipe. Maybe I try something new for dinner or something complex that would not be my go-to on a hard day. Baking bread, especially baking sourdough, that definitely takes pre-planning, but the end result is so worth it, and you feel so accomplished when you're done. Also going shopping. I'm not talking grocery shopping. I'm talking fun shopping, like clothes for myself or the kids, or home goods or something. Also taking more time to read for fun, like maybe sitting down for that 20 or 30 minutes and reading a chapter of the book you like just for fun because you can. Taking longer times for mindfulness or prayer. So maybe sitting down for a good 20 or 30 minutes, or if you can find the time, upwards of an hour to really get into a full like head to toe body scan or listen to a really like deep prayers session or Bible talk or something like that. Oh, also, I love going to adoration. That is something that requires some planning because I can't just up and leave the house whenever I want and go alone without my kids. But if I can plan in time to sneak away to adoration and sit with Jesus, that is always so renewing for my spirit. Workout classes. I love Pilates and Zumba. So any like fun, upbeat class with other people, if I can sneak away to do something like that, it always is a great dopamine boost. Taking an all over shower. So like, head to toe, exfoliating, doing the facial treatments, maybe a hair mask, taking time to actually like paint my nails or trim the hairs, just doing all of the things that you usually don't do unless you're getting dressed up to go somewhere special. The next thing is sides. Sides are activities that can pair well with chores that are usually not so appealing. So if I am really needing a dopamine boost, instead of that intentional silence, I will listen to a podcast or YouTube video while I do dishes or laundry, listening to the audiobook while I'm driving, calling a friend, listening to music that puts me in a great mood, and just even lighting a candle or a diffuser to give you that little bit of comfort and lift your spirit just a little. So the last two categories are desserts and specials. Desserts are activities that we do need to limit because they're those really high hitting dopamine activities that can become addictive if we indulge in them too much. But that being said, they are okay in moderation. So my desserts, watching a TV show or having a movie night, taking time to scroll social media, YouTube shorts, Insta reels, having a late night snack, or having, literal dessert, especially at nighttime, and online shopping, because I can get sucked into that like Amazon really quickly. Specials are those occasional big hitters that give you a really big boost of dopamine. They are not things that can happen every day because of expenses or because of all the planning they take. So my specials would be like actually going out on a date with Ben or going out with friends for the evening and like getting a babysitter in both cases. So we don't have to watch the kids for the night, actually taking a spa day. So going out and getting my nails done or getting my hair done or getting a massage. Those are really rare, but great treats. Taking a day trip somewhere new, going and seeing a live show, taking the kids to a zoo day or to the amusement park or having a swimming day with them. And the last one I've got is taking a spiritual retreat. So like if you go on a marriage retreat for the weekend or a women's retreat for the day, like, those really big things that they've got such a big payoff, but unfortunately they can't happen all the time. Here's my little dopamine menu, by the way, in case you were wondering what it looks like. And again, that's really nice because I have all of those activities pre-thought out. So when I'm in the moment and I need to think of something quick to keep me away from the temptation of the phone, I can just turn right to that page and pick something. So just some final thoughts. Now I am feeling so much better than I did just a couple months ago. I have space and peace in my days. I live with more intention. My head doesn't feel so cluttered up. I'm more patient with my family and I'm more confident in myself. It is clearly still a work in progress, but I get a little better every day. I have time to actually work on my goals and accomplish them. And I'm not getting burnt out. I'm getting back into daily rhythms and simplified routines. I do want to say that beating phone addiction is not a cure-all. There's lots more changes that need to be made to be living a holistic, healthy lifestyle. But for me, beating the phone addiction was a crucial first step. It opened the door to allow all of the good changes that I wanted to make to actually start taking root. And most importantly, it allows for prayer time and for true, deep, restorative rest. So yeah, now I'm finally making progress, and I want that for you guys too. If you want to learn more about how I use simplicity and self-care to support the changes I'm making, you can watch this video. And thank you for watching. Bye.